To make a long story short, my eldest son married his first love. You must have been very tired to make such a careless mistake. I was shocked to hear that he was old enough to be my father. The class goes too fast for me to keep up with. A man so difficult to please must be hard to work with. My son is already 3 years old and objects to being treated like a baby. My uncle is over 90 years old but has no trouble walking up steps. Your car has bad brakes and they need repairing. This film is a real masterpiece. I think Seeing the River. This film is a real masterpiece. I think it's worth watching many times. Seeing the River reminded me of the one running through my hometown. My friend was the only person injured in the train accident. Standing as it is on a hill, the hotel commands a splendid view. Seen from a distance, the huge rock looked like a human face. Not having seen him for a long time, I failed to recognize him. Last night I stayed up until 3 o'clock watching the Open on TV. You shouldn't read books while walking in the street. I watched the movie standing because every seat was taken. Other things being equal, the simplest explanation is the best. Judging from the way he speaks, I'm sure he is not a native of Osaka. I can't concentrate on my reading with you watching me like that. I don't think you can walk in a straight line with your eyes closed. It was so hot last night that I slept with the air conditioner on. Which cake would you like? I'd like the big one with strawberries on it. Go straight down the street and you'll get to the hotel in 5 minutes. Don't come too close or you'll catch my cold. I can't bring myself to go out when tired. He pretended not to see me as he passed me on the street. We do not necessarily become wiser as we get older. My father has put on a lot of weight since he gave up smoking. I didn't realize he was left-handed until I saw him sign his name. The post office will be closed by the time you get there. You should see a doctor before it is too late. He was late again this morning. He arrived an hour after school began. The first time I met you, you were still a college student. Every time he visits us, he brings some present for our daughter. Once you have learned how to ride a bike, you never forget. Now that our children are grown up, we can do anything we like. I'll be surprised if Taro doesn't have an accident. He drives too fast. I won't marry you unless you change your attitude. You can use my bike as long as you promise to be careful with it. As far as I recall, he was wearing a red cap when I saw him. Please put the magazine back where you found it. Leave the room as it is until the police get there. Since we don't have enough money, we can't buy a new car. He didn't go to class yesterday because he had a terrible headache. He didn't come because he wanted to. His mother told him to. I set the alarm for 5 in the morning so that I could start studying earlier than usual. Wear your raincoat so that you won't get wet. Take these rice balls with you in case you get hungry on the way. I lowered my voice for fear I might be overheard. This coffee is so strong that I really can't drink it. Even though I love the Beatles, I'm tired of listening to Yesterday. Whether you like it or not, you have no choice but to be here by 8 tomorrow morning. No matter what you wear, you look pretty. No matter which candidate we choose, we shouldn't expect too much of him. No matter how fast I drive, I can't get to the office in 30 minutes. I know nothing about him except that he used to be a professional singer. There's a rumor that the movie star is going to get married soon. There was little hope that the rescue party would come back safe and sound. Take your temperature to see if you have a fever. The biggest decision you have to make is whether you will give up smoking. Imagine what it is like to be kept waiting in the rain. How a book sells depends on who its author is. Do customers who smoke in restaurants bother you? He is the only one of my students who has passed the test. The man who I first thought was the criminal turned out to be a detective. Scotland, which I visited this last summer, has a lot of lakes. My friend's sister is a famous singer whose songs many people sing. I may have to work overtime, in which case I'll call you. As is usual with young people nowadays, Taro can't do without comic books. I hope the day will come when we can move into a more comfortable house. This is a photo of the town where I was born. He resembles his father very closely in the way he walks. There seemed to be something he wanted done. I haven't yet read the book the teacher told me to the other day. The bed I slept in last night wasn't very comfortable. My husband is no longer the brave soldier he was 10 years ago. We collected everything we thought would burn. What I don't understand is why he refused my offer. He often leaves undone what he ought to do. My hometown is quite different from what it was 30 years ago. The father gave his son what little money he had saved. I like children, that's why I became a school teacher. This is how we get rid of things we no longer need. On fine days you can see Mount Fuji from where you are standing now. You should ignore whatever Taro says about this matter. I vote for whoever promises to reduce taxes. Choose whichever one of the 3 methods you think is best. You should read as many different newspapers as you can. My house is only half the size of yours. The pain was more than I could bear, so I took some medicine. The weather is warmer than it ought to be for this time of year. Mary is more energetic than any other newly hired employee. In order to stay in good health, you should smoke fewer cigarettes and drink less beer. Of the 2 brothers, Masaru and Takeshi, the former is the older. In order to stay in good health, you should smoke fewer cigarettes and drink less beer. My brother plays the guitar much better than he used to. My mother sent me many more apples than I could eat. It's true that he is rather tall, but his son is even taller. Nothing is as precious as time, but nothing is less valued. The mathematical problems were not as difficult for me as I had expected. My father usually doesn't carry more money than he needs. This is the most delicious orange juice I've ever drunk. That was the biggest earthquake we had had in 50 years. He was the last person I expected to run into in London. My sister says she feels happiest when she is playing the piano. Of course he's quite a good writer, but he is not so much a scholar as a journalist. People say that fewer and fewer Japanese students are studying abroad these days. I didn't even speak to him, much less talk it over with him. The older we get, the less innocent we become. When you are told not to look at something, you become all the more eager to do so. The patient was none the better for taking the medicine. I can no more play the violin than a baby can. It is true that love is important, but still, money is no less important. Take a taxi. It's a long way to the railway station. It's already 5:30. It'll be dark in no time. It won't be long before we're able to travel in outer space. It's been half a year since we last ate at a nice restaurant like this. When it comes to restaurants in town, he knows everything. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you to find a new job in Tokyo. It was very brave of you to stand up to those bullies. I found it very difficult to adjust to life in the new school. It won't take you more than 10 minutes to get to the bus stop. It costs a huge sum of money to sail around the world. I tell you that it's no good your being angry with me. It never occurred to him that he would be punished. See to it that all the doors are locked before you leave. It's what you do that matters, not the way you do it. It is not until you lose your health that you realize its value. What are you going to do after you graduate from college? Oh, I haven't decided yet. How long have you had that car of yours? Well, for more than 5 years. How soon does the bus leave? In 5 minutes or so. Why don't we go for a drive? Okay, where shall we go? The bus hasn't come yet, has it? Oh no, it hasn't. Do you mind if I sit next to you? No, go ahead. Would you mind posting a letter for me on your way home? Not at all. Is it okay if I borrow your bike? I'm afraid not. I'm going to use it. Do you know who Akagawa Jiro is? Of course I do. I've read many of his novels. Who do you think you are? Well, I don't think I'm being arrogant. None of us have ever defeated Taro at chess. I don't know who or what he is, or where he lives. English is called the universal language, but you can't communicate in it in every part of the world. There is hardly anyone in Japan who does not know who Beat Takeshi is. I can't walk along the street without running into someone I know. You cannot drink boiling water. If you do, you will burn yourself. My brother hasn't got enough money to buy a car of his own. He is a talented musician, that brother of hers. The climate of Niigata isn't as mild as that of Shizuoka. My sister had never seen an elephant before she saw one at the circus. What students wear to school varies greatly from one school to another. He's always trying to get out of doing things on some pretext or other. A mere glance isn't enough for us to tell one from the other. Some of my students like math and others don't. Only one of my 4 sons lives in Tokyo and all the others abroad. While at college, they fell in love with each other. Many people have cars, but only a few of them use them to go to work. Did you visit many places while you were in Kyoto? Yes, quite a few. Taro loves karaoke. He isn't much of a singer, though. The present members of the club I belong to are all men. Almost all the passengers on the bus were tourists. We had hoped some students would come, but actually none did. The old man was left alone with no one to take care of him. There's nothing like a long, hot bath after a hard day's work. That comedy isn't amusing. In fact, it's anything but funny. 1.5 years is a long time to have to wait for a visa. The library is within a 5-minute walk of the station. He tried to kiss me on the lips, but I wouldn't let him. There was a large audience at the piano recital last night. It is often said that the Japanese are conservative people. My mother said she would be back in half an hour. I hope you'll finish writing your paper by the end of this month. On hot summer nights we sleep with the air conditioner on. My mother and I went shopping in Shibuya yesterday afternoon. I'm not familiar with modern art, so I don't know who painted the picture. The match resulted in a goalless draw after extra time. I want to exchange opinions with a person who has a different way of thinking. I usually walk up the stairs instead of taking the elevator. Besides me, 3 of my friends passed the exam. Except for a slight fever, Taro doesn't seem to be very ill.